So, one of my online friends mentioned something that I haven't talked about in a long time, never on camera, mainly in text on fora. I would discuss this, especially on Asperger's forum, trying to see who else, if anyone else, actually had this. And some seem to, but it's hard to really grasp whether or not they do, because without being in someone else's mind, you can't. Now this is, this was something when I was little, I was taught to be very ashamed of, and I still am, really, in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways it's not, in my mind, it's not far from masturbation, except there's no sexual element to it. But I perform a physical, what was called a tic by psychologists at the time, which is essentially classic hand flapping taken to an extreme. Now, I would do this for a long time, and I still do. Usually when I'm on the crapper or I'm playing a game. Never with anyone, so if you're ever thinking about playing with me, don't be too dissuaded. I'll wait till you're on the crapper to do that over the game. No, but, and my wife got me doing that. We called it drumming when I was young, and I continued with that throughout my life. She caught me in the bathtub doing it, and she thought I had turned into a lobster. Just, I had obviously transformed into something no longer human, because I really do sometimes lose complete control. Anyway. There's nothing special in the physical, but what is tremendously powerful about it is that it puts me into a state, and I can get into this close kind of state where I can start seeing things, where my brain is processing images that aren't outside me, but it's sort of like an awake dreaming type state. But it's nowhere near as vivid or controlled. So for example, I would be a Viking on the seas, blood and salt and water in my beard and, whatever. Or I can fly through the sky and crack my body in a thunderstorm. But those are different because they're centered. Whatever is out there is still me experiencing them. This is really watching a movie. That's the best way I can express it. It is almost exactly like sitting down and watching a movie. And there's a story, and that story is continuous. Some of them, I've got some that I think I've been doing since I was 14 years old. That was around a period, actually, where I think I picked up the big ones. Now and then, a new story will arrive, but it usually leaves. So the ones that I'm constantly with are ones that have been there, since I was a sort of an aware person. A little bit after that. When I was 5 or 6 years old, I used to stand out. We lived in the middle of nowhere. We had these little stone things, I guess, to tie your horses to, along the street. And I would stand by that road for hours on end. And, maybe every 20 minutes a car would come by. And I would see that car coming, and I would start drumming about it. And I would try to drink as much of it in while I'm doing the physical act. And then it would give me something, to imagine and drum and whatever you want to say, to build a story around for the next, however long, till the next car came by or whatever. When I'm designing, say, a role-playing game, which I made a whole one with a very interesting sort of storyline that mixes all kind of weird stuff, including it's set on a fantasy planet, but it ends up linking some science fiction to it. that whole universe is at various levels of detail and in various places mapped out in my mind through this. I've watched movies about this for, hours and hours on end through the years. And it's very easy for me to make up something in that universe because I have all this rich background material just in my head. Likewise, if I'm running a game, I often get so into the story that I end up spinning it in this form before preparing or after or whatever. And to a large extent, the characters in it do take on their own actions, etc. I don't plot everything out. It's not like I script it. It happens. It happens naturally. It happens as though I'm watching the movie. And I don't know what sort of other people have in that degree. I mean, people have imagination of different kinds, I guess, but I've talked to people and no one I've spoken to has ever said, yeah, that's what I do, and convinced me that they understood and do it, to that depth, to that, where it's, gee, there's no reason for me to watch a movie. I got better ones up here. I mean, really, it's not, it is definitely to that. It's not, and, the games definitely help spark that. That's one of the pleasures of the game, is when I'm playing a game solitaire, and what I love about solitaire games is I can do this. I can stand back and I can watch that movie, and I'm not intruding on my friends by doing it. So that's where the pleasure is in the game itself for me, to a large extent, in a straight solo session. A lot of the pleasure, not all of it. I enjoyed the games themselves too. I played Go, and I very seldomly drummed that. I enjoy certain mechanical aspects of the game, but mainly I want the story to be good, and good enough that my images are good. And almost any tactical game at the right level of detail, where you're actually shooting or whatever, I can picture very well. Strategic games are very easy for me to picture. It's tough for me to picture operational games, which, whatever it is that's with operational, it's all kind of the same. I just don't have a great grasp on what I think's going on usually. I can zoom in at the tactical level, that makes sense. And at the strategic game, I can zoom out and kind of watch the flow. Now this was something a friend of mine, who we call a Clueless Dave, used to, came up with as kind of an idea. He wanted to do a series of maps to show the history of the world and just kind of animate it, and at a granularity where it was kind of this smooth flowing of the maps. And it sounded wonderful to me, because that's kind of what I see when I'm looking at a strategic situation, is I picture it at that elevated level, which is why I'm not necessarily thrilled with, say, a hex map for that level. But I can look at, I don't know, I like the pretty appearance of a solid line of troops on any map, operational, strategic, whatever. Operational, it tends not to be there. It tends, you tend to have little clumps, and things aren't, the lines aren't as clearly defined. Now, World War I is so beautiful because the lines are so there, But, yeah, something like Empires of the Middle Ages, I definitely picture this map of Europe and where the countries are. And then I do zoom into the king making decisions or leading an army, but those are just flashes of points, just like, a command being given on a CW, American Civil War, the Brigade series. Yeah, CWB, I think. Uh, that normally I'm watching the fighting going on there, or the marching, or whatever, and it's only, say, when I'm rolling orders that I think about the commander very briefly doing that. So, yeah, I mean, I just thought I should talk about this in part because I am still ashamed of it. So, you know, it's always good to rip yourself open and show what you're ashamed of. Usually because everybody else finds it beautiful.